Hello and welcome to Coronacrisis. My name's David Haythornthwaite and I'm the chairman of AFC Fylde, and over the next few weeks and months I'm hopefully going to take you through what goes on behind the scenes of a non-league football team at times like this. We're going to discuss all the issues regarding behind the scenes, the players, off-field staff, all the things that contribute to the running of the club, and how we're dealing with the issues that are being thrown at us on a daily and weekly basis, so that it gives you a really good insight to the club and the running of clubs in general. So I look forward to you joining me on this journey.
David, thanks once again for joining us as we look behind the scenes at AFC Fylde. The only question that we need to ask you really at the minute, it's been well reported that there's been a National League meeting amongst the chairmen. What can you share with us?
Yes, so last time we met, Adam, as you know, this whole affair has been a long, drawn out one since we voted in April to finish the league. In these interviews, we've gone over many times all the different things that are happening, and ultimately that, whatever happened with the EFL, I've always felt pretty much would dictate what happened in the National League. As we know, last week the EFL made that decision, what they were going to do, how they were going to finish the season, and promotions and on this Tuesday, wasn't it? I say last week, Tuesday this week seems like a week ago, but on Tuesday they made those decisions, and immediately those decisions were made. Then we were, as clubs, were all sent an email informing us that there would be a meeting of all club chairmen today. So again, pretty much proved that they were just waiting to see what was going to happen with the EFL, and then they would be able to move forward with what they felt was right for the National League and their season. So we received the email yesterday to say, I think yesterday to say the meeting would be today. It's on one of those Zoom sort of type meeting, which is where everybody can basically dial in. You're all kind of in the virtual room. You can all see each other. So very useful in these circumstances. And we were, before that, first of all, sent a resolution which we are being asked to vote on as the way to end the season. And for probably for 30 minutes, probably things looked pretty bleak. I had a lot of phone calls in that 30 minutes from people. But as often in these things, the devil's always in the detail, and there's always twists and turns, and I'm sure that there will be more twists and turns. But we were then sent the presentation given by Michael Tattersall in advance of the meeting, which then gave us renewed hope, shall we say, of our chances of staying in the division. So that was a setup. So this morning, we all dialed in. All the chairmen were there. They're having 3 meetings today. The first one was with the National League at 11 o'clock. I believe they've then got a 2 o'clock with, I think, National League South, and then a 5 o'clock with National League North. So they're doing all these meetings individually. Obviously, starting with the National League, everybody was present, including representatives from the FA Council, which is very important. And Michael Tattersall, who's the chief executive, took us through the presentation and what's going to happen. So I think the first thing is that the season is going to finish. And I don't think I'm talking out of turn any way here. I hope I'm not. It's pretty much everything's in the public domain, so it'll soon be in the newspapers, probably before people actually see this video. But it's important just to sort of go through the detail, shall we say, of the call. So the first thing that was decided was that the league should finish now, pretty much following the EFL. It would be on a non-weighted points per game, and that based on that, the three clubs who were champions of their respective leagues would be promoted to the leagues above. So in that case, that guarantees what all those Barrow fans have been waiting for a long time, that they would be promoted to the Football League. And also that Wealdstone from the south, the champions of the south, and also Kings Lynn on a points per game basis, leapfrog over York City, and they would be promoted as well to the National League. So both those teams would be coming up to the National League next season, and I say Barrow going up into the Football League. What's not clear exactly yet is how many clubs will be coming down from the Football League, and that's yet to be agreed. I think it's still unclear about the Bury situation, but what we do know is that at least one club minimum will be going up, and I think there's no reason why a second club won't be going up as well. So there'll be two going up. That's going to be decided by playoffs, and in that situation, those who've been following it know that in actual fact Barnet will be leapfrogging Stockport into the playoffs. So the playoff teams will be Halifax Town, Boreham Wood, Yeovil, Notts County, and Harrogate. I think that is that. And Barnet. That's six. So the six teams, usual format. I think that they've got to start those by July the 18th, and they've got to be complete by July the 31st. So those are pretty much those. Now, there's a lot of cost involved in that, as we've talked about, and it could be anywhere between £50,000 and £100,000 per club, because we have to follow they have to follow the required government guidelines. So it's a pretty big commitment, and one of the things the league said that if there were clubs who felt they'd let players go, for example, it's difficult to put a squad together, and they didn't want to compete, and that there wouldn't be any sort of sanctions against them. But obviously the club that they were playing would get a bye to the next round, whatever that might be. So that was the situation, and I think it would be fair to say that it satisfied pretty much everyone, because there's you can go backwards and forwards, but at least it gives the clubs in the promotion places the opportunity to play off. And that I'm not going to necessarily change my view on this. I've been a very strong advocate, but we shouldn't have had playoffs, shouldn't be having playoffs. But COVID is a fast-moving ball, very fast-moving one. And obviously things have changed a lot along the time in those sort of 2 months that you and I have been talking, Adam. And it does appear that those have a possibility of taking place now, and as long as the clubs can afford it and want to pay to do it, then I wouldn't be one that would be objecting to that. So I understand where they're coming from on that. So those playoffs will take place, I say, in that time frame. I think, unfortunately for them, you won't have that fantastic experience like we had last year, where you go to Wembley and in the final and play off. It's going to be a neutral ground. I don't think they decided where that neutral ground is going to be yet, but I would imagine that if there's two southern teams in it, then it'll be played down south. If there's a couple of northern teams, then it'll be played up north, and if not, they might be played in the middle. So, but anyway. That's what's going to happen there. We then had, a very interesting situation when it comes to relegation and playoffs in the National League South and North. and that is that the government, I understand in actual fact, through quite a few professional sports, but this decision was, my understanding, talking to a few people in the last hour or so, is that the government had been in discussions with various sporting organisations, in this case rugby union, I think, of trying to decide a policy on return to sport behind closed doors. And so, what's that define? How far does that go? It's a new organisation that I've never heard of before, and I said at the meeting that I may become eternally indebted to in the future, called DCMS, which I think is the Department for Culture, Media and Sports. I think DCMS department, and they were basically have decided, I suppose logically, that elite sport can continue behind closed doors. So of course, once you've made that decision, that elite sport, you have then to have a definition of elite sport. And my understanding, the definition of elite sport is a sport where people earn a living or earn their full-time living from that sport. So it's clearly with professional footballers. They do with professional rugby players at the highest level, they do. But in amateur, in more amateur, lower down, they don't. They would be mainly part-time players who've got a job, like our old goalkeeper. Ben used to have, he was a lorry driver, but he played football and still does, I think, for Stockport. So there was lots of that, but their main income wasn't derived from football. Because of that, DCMS have deemed that the North and South divisions are not elite sports, and therefore they can't return at this stage to play games behind closed doors as such, and that means that there can therefore be no playoffs in the North and South. Now that's highly significant, because effectively that means that under the current rule book, that only the champions can be promoted without a big change of the rules. So at the moment, that means that there would be 2 clubs promoted, the champions, as we talked about, they would automatically be promoted. However, there'd only be 1 club relegated from the National League, which is the bottom club, and that unfortunately, it seems for them, is Chorley. So I suppose that we went into the meeting with trepidation. I as you know, from day one, I've always said that if the vote is that we go down, and as long as we're given a democratic opportunity, as long as the different options are put in front of us, then we have to take that medicine, and we'd have to play next season in the Conference North. And listen, it's not over by a long way. These things never are. But interestingly enough, also what's happened this week is that some of the people watching may recall that one of the biggest losers when steps 3 to 7 was null and voided was South Shields. And I know Jeffrey Thompson, who owns them, happened to run into a hotel on holiday in a hotel one day, and he knew that I owned Fylde, and I didn't know he owned South Shields, and we got talking as you do, and he was doing exactly what we've done, coming through the leagues at great speed. And as you know, I think they were 12 points clear, a bit like Liverpool in their division. So they went into High Court, and at great expense, I would imagine, and challenged that decision. And it was published yesterday. The decision, I think, on last Friday, it was in court, and they lost that challenge. is very difficult. I have been there myself on another issue, which I won't discuss today. Maybe it's for another day. But it is very difficult to challenge FA rules and regulations, and very difficult to get them to, shall we, rewrite them or change them as we go along, so to speak. So the no doubt that I'm sure that some of the people in National North and South who will be speaking this afternoon are not going to be happy with that result. But I think that the league feel that they've got pretty strong grounds. I mean, it's a government decree. It's based on health and safety grounds. Again, as I've said 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, I never was full playoffs because of the cost and the safety aspect. So it looks like at the moment, and I say things can change very quickly, but it looks like at the moment that we could escape, and we've been given a pretty strong assurance. Just to look at that, so I've got it. Is effectively there's a slide that says what happens next, and if we pass the resolution that's been put before us, and this resolution will be voted on over the weekend, and the results will be known Monday night. So no doubt you'll be wanting to come and see me maybe on Monday and get either my glumful report or hopefully a happy report. But anyway, come what may, we'll know next Monday when the votes are in, and the votes have to come in and have to be passed on a unanimous basis. I think they have to get, just like the Football League, it has to be 51% to gain. So I think it needs 17 votes to pass in total. Sitting on that meeting today, I got the feeling that the majority of everybody in our league will vote for it. That was my gut feeling. There was one or two dissensions, but it was one or two. And if that happens, then as Michael presented, it means 3 clubs will be promoted. National division playoffs will continue, with the eventual playoff winner being promoted, and 1 club may be relegated from the national division, but it does depend. In actual fact, may up with none. It does depend a lot on the Stevenage situation, everything like that. So there may not be anybody relegated, which would be great. Chorley's are great rivals, and we hate each other when we play each other. But at the end of the day, I've got a lot of respect for Ken Wright and what they've done there. And it's tough. Tough is relegation for anybody. So they may get that. They may get that reprieve as well. But at the moment, based on what we've told today, if the resolution passes, then we will, in its current format, be saved and play again next year in the national division. Now, the resolution has to go out yet, and that vote has to take place. Interestingly enough, it was discussed. Well, what happens if it doesn't? And pretty much what we've been informed, if this doesn't get passed, then the next option that will be presented us will be null and void. So I think they're towing a pretty hard line on this one at all. I mean, that's I don't know that many people actually sort of picked up on that, but it's pretty clear in listening to Michael Tattersall that would be the other option if they can't get this one across the line. But I fully expect them to be able to do that today. So the resolution will come out. It's going to be slightly adjusted, I think, and then it will be discussed at the National League board meeting tomorrow. They've got another meeting. And then once it's done, that'll be issued out. So usually get it late Friday, these things. We'll be able a chance to look at it over the weekend, vote, and then I say Monday we'll know the result. So, all in all, as it stands at the moment, it looks like ourselves and Ebbsfleet and Maidenhead will survive. and I think I've from day one, Adam, said to you, that I always believe that I've got great faith in people, and decency and fairness will prevail, and it looks at the moment like it may have done, even if it's maybe in a way that none of us imagined. And I have a little bit of sympathy for those guys in the north and the south, maybe who feel they should have the playoffs, but at the same time, with my Fylde hat on, I'm absolutely, well, not delighted yet, but we're quietly confident that we'll be okay.